Hello, class. This is Mr. Hart, and in this podcast, we want to finish off the climate chapter, and we want to talk about the greenhouse effect and global warming. You probably remember the greenhouse effect from the atmosphere chapter. We kind of looked at it before, but it's this idea that sunlight comes in to warm the earth, it bounces off, and then CO2 acts as this kind of glass across the earth, and so the sun will reflect off the CO2 and keep bouncing in the atmosphere until it warms it up. Okay, so the greenhouse effect helps us stay warmer than we usually would. If there was no atmosphere, our planet would look a lot like Mars. It'd be pretty cold because the atmosphere is what insulates us. It keeps a lot of the heat in. So the greenhouse effect is this idea that sunlight comes in and it stays in there and helps warms us up. Excuse me. Okay, so simple enough. We looked at a simulation on PhET that talked about the greenhouse effect, and we watched as how you put in more clouds and more atmosphere, the heat got trapped in. And so we're glad that we have this greenhouse gas, because if we didn't, we'd be very, very cold. Okay, so that's the greenhouse effect. Hopefully you remember that from the atmosphere chapter. Okay, but we want to talk about climate change and global warming. Okay, and this is a big topic right now because a lot of people are arguing that we're causing a lot of global warming and climate change. Okay, so obviously we're very glad that we have our atmosphere. Okay, we are glad that we have CO2 because it helps us stay warm. Okay, otherwise it'd be very, very cold. It'd be like the ice age. Okay, but we're having a problem now that we're having in too much. We have too much CO2, and so sunlight's coming in and keeping us too warm. Okay, it's almost like if you have one blanket, okay, you're warm at night, but if you have four blankets, then you get too warm, right? You have too much insulation. Okay, so we're starting to wonder if we're starting to get this same effect. We're having too much CO2 gas, so it's insulating us too well, and we're getting what's called global warming. Okay, and so we watched this video called The Inconvenient Truth. Watch a clip from that about global warming, which you can watch here. But basically the idea is that, we have CO2 that we're putting into the atmosphere from factories and our cars and things like that, and it's causing the earth to warm, okay, more than we want. And so just like when we talked about ozone, remember how I said that there's lots of different opinions that people have about the ozone? Well, we're going to have the same thing with global warming. Okay, so generally there's three opinions people have about global warming. Okay, some people think there is no global warming. Some people think there is global warming, but it's nothing to worry about. And some people think there is global warming, and it is something that needs to be taken care of. Okay, and so in class we looked at a lot of data and things like that, and I told you that the reason why it's so hard to kind of separate out these three opinions is sometimes other things get in the way, like economics or politics or social reform or things like that. People don't want to change their lifestyles. They don't want to spend this much money or things like that. So we kind of mix these other things into the science, which is unfortunate, right? We don't, if you really think there is global warming, then we want that to be your opinion because of the science, not because of politics or things like that. Likewise, if you think there is no global warming or it's nothing to worry about, we want you to think that because of the science, not because of the politics and the economics. Okay, so we have a problem nowadays that we mix those other things in with the science, so it can be very confusing. So in class, we watched a documentary, and I had you distinguish between actual fact and opinion. Okay, this is very important to be able to do, especially with something like global warming, which is so controversial. We need to be able to watch documentaries or read papers and things like that and actually extract the facts and take them away from the opinions. Because like I said, the opinions can be mixed with the politics and the economics and things like that. Okay? So we watched this documentary, which you can watch as well at this link. Okay? It's a Discovery Channel documentary, which is very good. And again, they give a lot of opinion, which is okay. It's their opinion. Obviously, they have some reason for it. But we want to take the facts as well. So if you watch this documentary, make sure you're pulling out the actual facts and not just what they say. Okay? Because sometimes they'll say things that are opinion. But we want to look at the facts themselves and analyze those, okay, and be able to form our opinion from that, from the science. Okay? Hopefully that's making sense. Again, I just don't want you to believe everything you say, and I want you to form your own opinion based on actual facts. Okay? So just like I said with ozone, I don't care which opinion you have. I don't care if you think there is no global warming. I don't care if you think there is global warming. Okay, I want you to form your own opinion, but I want you to form it based on the science, not on the, politics. Okay. All right, and then the last thing we did is, if we do have global warming, okay, what should we do about it? Okay, because if even if we didn't know global warming was true or not, if it was a simple solution to take care of, then we would have dealt with it a long time ago. If it was easy to fix global warming simply by not building houses as tall or putting filters over our cars or something, then we would have done that a long time ago. Okay, but the solution is not that simple. So we want to know, what would the solution have to be. So what I want you to do is look at 5 things people would have to do in order to stop global warming, and why some people would resist those ideas. So, for example, think about cars. Okay, cars contribute CO2 gas into the air. Okay, they contribute to global warming. So, if I think if I truly think that we need to get rid of global warming, I also believe that we have to get rid of all gasoline cars. Right? We have to use natural gas or solar cars. Okay, so that's one thing we'd have to do. Now, why would some people resist those ideas? Obviously, there's going to be economic problems if everyone has to switch their cars to natural gas. Not everyone can afford that. Not everyone can afford an electric car, things like that. Okay, so just think about 5 things that we'd have to do and have to get rid of, and why people would resist those ideas. Okay, so if you're doing participation, do that. And as you do them, I think you'll see that the solution is not so easy. Again, a lot of other things become problems if we try and solve global warming, which is why it's such a debated topic. How much should we do? How much shouldn't we do? How much should we protect our economy? How much should we let it kind of dwindle a little bit for global warming? Okay, obviously it's a big topic. Okay, so hopefully as you watch this podcast, you understand a little bit more about global warming and why it's an issue, and hopefully you can kind of form your own ideas about it based on facts. Okay. But hopefully that all made sense. Let me know if you had any questions, and thank you for watching.